Hi everyone, and welcome to The Sleepy Scientist. I'm really happy you're here. Tonight, we're going to go on a calm and quiet trip to learn something amazing. So get comfy, take a deep breath, and let's enjoy this peaceful science story together. Before we start, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from and what time is it for you right now? If you like relaxing science videos, don't forget to tap the like button. Now let's begin.
You are made of quiet rivers that no map can fully hold. One of those rivers runs deep inside your brain, curling through valleys with names that sound like soft bells: ventral tegmental area, nucleus accumbens, prefrontal cortex. In this river, a tiny traveler moves again and again, a bright messenger that drifts from one shore to another and then returns like a tide. We call that traveler dopamine, but tonight we will call it the river's glimmer because the word fits the way it feels. A gleam, a hush, a little light that says, yes, this matters, keep going, you are close. If you close your eyes, you can almost hear it. Electrical whispers pass along thin branches of cells. They are like trees under starlight, stretching from trunk to twig. At the tips of those twigs, small pockets open and spill a few drops of this glimmer into the space between one tree and another. One moment there is silence. The next, something gently brightens and the second tree receives the message. This is worth your attention. The brain is not a single voice, but a quiet choir. Dopamine is one of the soft hand signals that lets the choir breathe together. Imagine you are about to taste a ripe peach. The first aroma reaches you, warm and sunny. You have not yet taken a bite, but the promise of sweetness is already in the air. Somewhere deep in your midbrain, cells begin to fire. They send dopamine into the currents that lead forward into the regions where you weigh choices, imagine futures, and hold back or move ahead. The glimmer tells your attention to turn its face toward the peach. It teaches your body to lean, your fingers to reach, your mouth to water. Not because the fruit is urgent or dramatic, but because life has taught your nervous system that fruit is energy and safety, and that tasting it will be good. In gentle ways like this, dopamine helps you decide where to place your steps. It is not a puppeteer or a command. It is a small lantern that lights certain stones along the path. When the light appears, you notice, and noticing is the first thread in the fabric of action. Sometimes that lantern shines because of something you expected, like a favorite song beginning to play. Sometimes it shines because of surprise, like a bird rising from a bush when you thought the morning was empty. In those moments of surprise, the glimmer can be a little brighter, teaching the brain, remember this. It was more than you thought. Next time, look for it sooner. Now imagine a day that unfolds with calm steadiness. You wake and the world is gray-blue. You wash your face and the water is cool. You breathe in and feel the chest rise, the air lingering sweet and simple. Through small acts, making tea, tying laces, opening a window, a soft pattern forms. Dopamine hums under the surface of these patterns, not to shout about glory or urgency, but to gently mark the steps that lead to care. When the tea warms your hands, your brain notes the comfort. When the shoes fit, it notes the readiness. When the window lifts and fresh air drifts in, it notes the relief. Each of these notes can be a soft nudge to repeat the act tomorrow. The river does not need to be a flood to shape the valley. Many small flows can carve a canyon over time. Some people think dopamine is only about pleasure, a tiny spark that says, yes, this feels good. But the glimmer is also about learning. It is about predictions and the small dance between what you expect and what arrives. When the world meets your expectation, the glimmer nods politely. When the world is kinder than you expected, the glimmer brightens and you feel a little lift, a little rising. Your brain writes a quiet note in its notebook. This path is better than it seemed. When the world is less generous than you hoped, the glimmer dims and your attention rewrites the plan. In this way, dopamine helps you fold reality into memory and memory into better guesses next time. Think about a child learning to ride a bicycle. The first push is wobbly, the ground a little too close. The pedals twitch, the air is wide, but balance is a tightrope. Then the child feels a second of glide, a clean line through the air. The brain catches that second like a falling feather and the glimmer notes it. Here, this is the feeling. The child tries again, chasing that clean line. Each small success pulls the lantern forward and the body learns to follow it. Before long, the glide becomes a path, then a habit, then a simple joy. In this way, the river of reward becomes a river of skill and then a river of ease. Now picture the same child years later, sitting at a desk trying to solve a puzzle. The answer is not obvious. The first attempt fails, then the second. The lantern is quiet for a while because the brain's predictions are too wide, too vague. But then a pattern shows itself. The numbers softly align. There is a small click, not loud enough to startle, just enough to confirm. The glimmer brightens again, yes. This is it, remember this move. In tiny steps, the mind learns to notice the right shapes at the right time. Dopamine does not carry the answer. It carries the emphasis that helps the answer stand up and say, "Here I am, do you see me now?" If you listen closely inside, you can sense that the river has tides. When you are rested, the lantern is easy to please, and gentle moments can glow. Hand on a warm mug, a friend's quiet laugh, leaves turning in a slow breeze. When you are exhausted, the lantern struggles to find what to light. It may grasp at quick sparks, sugar, noise, bright screens to make a brief flare. But like dry grass catching, those flares burn out quickly, leaving the field darker than before. Your body and your life teach the river how to flow. Sleep and sunlight, movement and stillness, nourishment and kindness. These are simple banks that guide the current so it can do its work without eroding you. There is also a balance between wanting and liking. Wanting is the pull, the forward tilt of the body, the leaning in. Liking is the soft sigh when you arrive and take the first sip, the first bite, the first quiet, and your shoulders drop. Dopamine closely follows wanting. It marks your steps toward the thing, your learning about the path, your sense that each effort might bring the reward closer. Liking, that warm bloom of contentment, belongs more to other messengers, traveling slower, resting longer. When wanting and liking hold hands, the day feels full and kind. When wanting runs ahead and liking falls behind, the day can feel jagged, full of chasing and thin satisfaction. The river does not control the hands, but it often leads the dance. Knowing this lets you choose softer music. Think about habits like beads on a string. Each bead is a cue, a tiny bell that rings. The bell says now is the time we usually do this. The bell might be the morning light or an empty plate after dinner or the quiet that comes when your phone stops buzzing. After the bell, your body starts a routine, and at the end of the routine there is a little glimmer, a small nod from the river. Over many days, these beads form long necklaces that drape over your life. Some shine, some scratch. Your attention can thread new beads or cut old strings, but it helps to move slowly, to let the river learn the new song. If a habit once brought a bright flare but now brings a tired ember, you can thank the old bead and then choose a softer one, a bead that glows steady instead of burning fast. In your relationships, the river threads between two people like a shared breeze. A kind word given without hurry can light the lantern in both hearts. A small touch on the shoulder, a return to an old story, a laugh at the same corner of the day, each becomes a signpost. The brain says, when I walk this path with you, the world feels safer, warmer, more open. You can feel this on a quiet evening when you do nothing special, and yet everything seems to breathe. The river of reward is not only about treats and trophies. It is also about the way a gaze meets a gaze, how a rhythm grows between steps, how a promise keeps its softness across many seasons. Consider work that stretches your patience, like tending a garden or learning a language. The seeds do not rush, the words do not hurry to gather. If you try to force the river, it slips through your fingers. But if you show up gently, the glimmer arrives in modest shapes, a sprout breaking soil, a sentence that suddenly feels natural on your tongue. Each small sign says, keep going. You do not need to flood the field, you need to keep the soil damp. The river helps you love the next step, not just the finish line. In time, that love becomes skill, and skill becomes grace. There are days when the river seems to run too fast. Your mind seeks novelty after novelty, opening doors and leaving them ajar. The glimmer is everywhere and nowhere, scattering attention into bright confetti. On such days, it can help to slow the current with anchors that are old and kind. A walk beneath trees, the sound of your own feet, a slow breath that counts to 4, holds for 4, and floats back down for 4 more. These are not tricks, but invitations. They tell your nervous system that the world is still here, simple and broad, and that the lantern can rest on one stone for a while without fear of missing the others. There are also days when the river feels low, the lantern dim, and nothing seems to pull you forward. In those times, small and certain acts can help. Wash a dish, fold a towel, open the curtains. These are not grand signals, but they carry a quiet phrase: movement is possible. Each act earns a little glimmer, and small lights can form a path even in a dim valley. Some scientists say that gentle movement, a bit of sunlight, and the comfort of a familiar voice can lift the river more than we think. It is not because the river loves drama. It is because the body recognizes safety and shows the brain where to stand. If you wonder how much of your life is shaped by this glimmer, the answer is both less and more than you might guess. Less because you are not a puppet, and your values, your stories, your memories, and your communities guide you as well. More because so many of your choices are taught by the small joys and the small disappointments that the river marks each day. The lantern does not decide who you are. It teaches you which doors feel warm to the touch. With time, you can place warm doors in your path on purpose. The river does not flow alone. Other messengers move beside it, some calming, some exciting, some soothing pain, some opening the eye to danger. But dopamine is the gentle teacher of repetition and reach. It helps you lean into what helps you grow softly without the need to chase storms. You can honor it by creating steady chances for good surprises. A new poem at breakfast, a new path around the block, a new recipe shared with a friend. Not fireworks, just little stars. At night, when the world is quiet and the window shows only a few far lights, the river slows and the lanterns grow fewer. This is not a failure, it is a rhythm. Rest is the dark soil that lets the seeds of today's glimmers sprout tomorrow. Your brain uses sleep to sort, to stitch, to carry the best patterns forward. The bright moments are tucked in, the confusing ones are smoothed, and morning finds you with a map that is a little clearer. If you have ever solved a small problem right after waking, you have felt this. The river did part of its work while you drifted. So let us stand here for a moment on the bank of this inner water. Imagine holding a small stone that has been rounded by years of flow. It is smooth, cool, and dependable in your palm. You are like that stone, shaped not by a single flood, but by countless patient currents. The first flavor you loved, the first hand that steadied you, the first tune that made your foot tap, the first lesson that made sense. All those little glimmers have made you a shape that fits the world in a way only you can. When you choose with care, you train the river to return to those choices, and with time, they feel easier, kinder, more natural. If the river is ever unkind, if it lights paths that lead to restlessness or harm, you can change its course. Not quickly, not all at once, but the way streams are guided by stones and reeds. Set gentle barriers around habits that drain you. Plant new reeds where you want the current to linger. Invite friends to sit with you on the bank and talk about the weather inside your mind. Even when the water runs fast, a circle of steady faces can widen the shore. Now imagine tomorrow morning. A soft alarm, a window glow, the faint smell of toast or tea. You stand and stretch, and your spine feels like a tree greeting sunlight. Somewhere within, the ventral tegmental area will whisper to the nucleus accumbens again, the prefrontal cortex will listen, and the lantern will choose a stone. You can help it choose a kinder one. Place a book by your bed that makes you curious. Place your shoes where a small walk is easy. Place a glass where water is close. These are not rules, they are invitations. The river does not need orders, only pathways that are gentle and clear. Remember, dopamine is not joy itself. It is the guide that points toward it, the soft finger in the map's margin. Joy is wider. Joy includes the hush after rain, the weight of a friend's head on your shoulder, the long patience of a tree. But the river of reward helps you return to the places where joy likes to visit. And as you keep returning, paths turn into meadows, meadows into home. Tonight, if you feel a small brightening as you think of something kind you might do tomorrow, that is the river speaking in its quiet voice. It is saying, here is a step that will matter, take it gently. You do not need to run. Let this be a lantern, not a fire. Let it lead you by inches, by breaths, by heartbeats over the stones you choose. In this way, the glimmer does not control your life. You and it learn each other's rhythms, and together you write a song that is soft, steady, and yours. If the river of reward begins with tiny sparks, then the journey deepens as those sparks become threads woven through the tapestry of your days. Dopamine is not only about single pleasures, but about patterns, about how one joy leads to another, how a lesson learned once is carried into tomorrow. Think of it as a hidden compass inside you. At each crossroad, it tilts its needle ever so slightly toward what your body and mind have marked as valuable. The compass does not force you, it suggests. Yet over many years, those gentle suggestions draw the lines of your story. Imagine an ancient forest with many trails. Some trails are wide and clear, pressed down by thousands of footsteps. Others are faint, marked only by a few wandering deer. When you choose a path, your foot presses the soil. Your hand brushes the leaves and a trace remains. If you return again tomorrow, the trail becomes a little clearer. Soon, it is the easiest way forward. Inside your brain, dopamine helps lay down these trails. Each time a choice brings something rewarding, the signal leaves a mark, telling your neurons, remember this, make this path easier to find again. With time, your habits are nothing more than well-trodden trails in the forest of your mind. You can almost see the brain working this way when you recall how a song becomes familiar. The first time you hear it, the notes are surprising, a little strange. Dopamine brightens at the moments you enjoy most, perhaps the rise of the chorus or the softness of a bridge. On the second listen, your brain waits for those notes, tilts toward them, and the glimmer comes sooner. By the fifth listen, the trail is wide, and hearing the first bar already stirs the glow. What once was new has become expected, and expectation itself carries light. The river does not only respond to what is happening, it responds to what you believe will happen. In this way, it binds past, present, and future into a single current. This predictive gift is what makes learning possible. A scientist once said that dopamine is not the signal of pleasure, but the signal of surprise. When reality is kinder than you guessed, the river brightens. When it is duller, the river dims. The gap between what you expected and what you received is the lesson. A child learning to speak feels this with every word. They reach for a sound, wobble it through their lips, and see a parent smile. The smile is brighter than expected, and dopamine marks the moment. Yes, this sound is right, keep it. Slowly, the child gathers enough moments to weave a language. Each smile is a lantern, each syllable a stepping stone, and the river carries them forward without rush, without pause. Now drift further into the idea of craving. To crave is to feel the river pulling before the water arrives. A smell of bread, a hint of salt, a glance at a glowing screen, all can tug at the compass needle. Wanting itself becomes its own current, often stronger than the contentment of receiving. This is why a person may reach again and again for something that no longer pleases as it once did. The lantern shines brightest not in the moment of having, but in the moment of almost. The brain loves the promise. In this way, dopamine teaches not only joy but also longing. Some scientists whisper that this is why modern life, filled with endless cues and endless promises, leaves many people restless. The river is stirred again and again, yet the glimmers remain brief. The forest trails grow tangled, leading always forward but rarely to stillness. And yet this same pull is what lets humans build civilizations. A farmer plants seeds not because he eats today, but because he craves the harvest tomorrow. A student studies not for the page itself, but for the future knowledge it promises. An artist shapes clay not for the wet lump in her hand, but for the vessel that will emerge. Without dopamine, pull toward not yet, the world would have little invention. The river is both temptation and teacher, both hunger and hope. Like any current, it can flood or it can nourish, depending on the banks you build. Let's drift into another image, the stars above a desert. At night they glitter countless and calm. You cannot hold them, cannot own them, yet they stir something inside you. The brain's river responds not only to food and touch, but to patterns that feel meaningful. A melody, a painting, a night sky, all can light the lantern. Perhaps this is because your ancestors needed more than survival, they needed to find wonder. Wonder led them to map the stars, to draw on cave walls, to tell stories around fires. Each spark of curiosity carried a small glimmer, enough to make the tribe return to the fire again, enough to keep knowledge alive. Dopamine is as much a guardian of culture as it is of hunger. The balance between short glimmers and long glimmers shapes a life. A short glimmer may come from sugar on the tongue, a long glimmer from finishing a book after weeks of reading. The brain can choose both, but when short glimmers crowd too closely, the river loses depth. Imagine drinking from a stream that only splashes the surface. Your thirst is never quenched. But when you space the glimmers, when you weave them into long rhythms, the river gains layers. The water is cool, the banks are wide, and the forest grows greener. You can taste this when you spend an afternoon tending a garden or an evening cooking a slow meal. The glow at the end is not a spark but an ember, warm and steady. Think of relationships again. Dopamine does not only mark romance or friendship, it marks trust. Each time someone shows up when they say they will, the river leaves a note. This path is safe. Each time a voice calms your worry, another note is written. Slowly, the fours. Trail between two hearts grows wide. If the notes are broken too often, the trail grows faint and your compass turns elsewhere. This is why promises matter, why small gestures repeat across years. They are not only kindnesses, they are signals. They teach the river where safety lies. And in the deep brain, safety is as rewarding as sweetness, as anchoring as light. Now pause and listen to your own body. When you are hungry, dopamine primes your senses, sharpening the smell of food. When you are lonely, it makes social cues more glowing, drawing you toward voices and eyes. When you are tired, it quiets, letting you rest. It shifts like weather, responding to the seasons of your needs. This fluidity shows that the river is not fixed, it bends to context. If you nourish yourself gently, the river flows calmly. If you strain yourself harshly, the river may twist into restless loops. This is why balance matters. Balance in rest and wake, in solitude and connection, in effort and ease. The river follows you, but you also follow the river. Some scientists explore how movement shapes the current. When you walk, your body releases steady rhythms, each step a drumbeat. These rhythms encourage dopamine to flow, reminding your brain that progress is being made. A long walk through trees is like a meditation for the river. Each sight of green, each bird call, each breath of air becomes a soft glimmer. You return home calmer, not because of a single pleasure, but because 100 small lanterns lit the path. Over time, these walks become trails the river remembers, and when you feel lost, it will nudge you gently back toward them. Consider also the role of stories. A book or a tale told by a friend is a structure of predictions and surprises. Each turn of phrase sets up an expectation, and when the story fulfills or bends it, dopamine lights. This is why we lean into narratives, why we crave endings. The river is drawn to resolution, to the closing of circles. When the ending is kind, the glimmer rests. When it is sharp, the glimmer flares and the memory deepens. In this way, the brain treats stories like maps of living. They teach us to expect, to wait, to see meaning in the flow of time. Every culture, every tribe, every family has passed on stories, and behind them flows the same river, nudging the lantern along the lines of anticipation. The quiet miracle is that you can guide this river with awareness. If you learn to notice when the lantern shines, when you feel a small surge, a subtle tilt of desire, you can pause and ask, what path is this lighting? Is it leading to strength or to weariness, to connection or to loneliness? You cannot turn the river off, but you can redirect it by choosing which banks to build. This is the art of habits, the art of gentle discipline. With each repetition, the trail grows clearer, and in time, the compass tilts without struggle. Let us close this section with an image, a candle in a room at dusk. The flame is not fierce, not wild, it is steady. It lights the edges of a table, the curve of a cup, the lines of a hand resting nearby. Dopamine is like that candle. It does not tell you the meaning of the room, but it lets you see enough to move kindly within it. Each flicker is a suggestion. Notice this, remember this, come back here. The room itself, the warmth, the love, the peace, is larger than the flame. But without the flame, it would be harder to find. So as you walk through your days, notice the lanterns. Let them guide, but also let them rest. For even a river must sometimes slow, and even a flame must sometimes dim, so that the stars beyond the window can be seen again. The river of reward does not end in one valley. It travels across your lifetime, shaping each season in a quiet way. In childhood, dopamine is bright and playful, teaching you to reach, to try, to learn. Every pebble lifted, every word spoken, every friend found is a glimmer. In youth, the current grows strong, driving you toward novelty, new paths, new dreams. It is as if the river widens, urging you into distant lands. In adulthood, the current may narrow, steadying itself into routines, flowing into the fields of work, care, and family. In older years, it softens, circling back into gentler rhythms, marking joy not in reaching far, but in savoring what is near. Always the lantern adapts. Always it whispers, "This is the moment, notice it." Think of the arc of a bird's life. A fledgling leaps from the nest, wings trembling, chasing flashes of light. Each small success is written in the brain with dopamine's ink. Later, the bird soars farther, driven by instincts that feel like longing, searching for food, for mates, for places to rest. Still later, the bird's flights shorten, and comfort lies in the steady return to familiar branches. So too with you. The glimmers of youth may be sharp and bright, but the glimmers of age are steady, like embers glowing long after the fire's peak. Both are necessary, TH are beautiful. In your daily living, dopamine weaves itself into the rhythms of effort and rest. It helps you rise for the work that matters, and it rewards you when you pause to breathe. Without it, you might drift without direction. With too much of it, you might chase endlessly without peace. Balance is not found in silencing the river, but in learning its tones. Some days the lantern will shine brightly on goals, and you will lean into ambition. Other days the lantern will flicker over simple joys, a warm drink, a familiar song, the comfort of stillness, and you will rest. Trust that both are part of the flow. The river carries you forward not as a flood, but as a rhythm. The science tells us that dopamine's pathways are not straight lines, but loops. Signals move from the midbrain to the forebrain and circle back, as if the lantern were passing messages in a round dance. These loops connect motivation, action, and memory. They help you not only want, but also remember why you wanted. This is how the student returns to her studies each morning, how the artist keeps sketching, how the gardener kneels in the soil again and again. Each action is folded back into the loop, strengthened by the glimmer. Without this circling, effort would fade and meaning would scatter. But with it, life builds layers, and each layer supports the next. Let's imagine the brain as a garden. Dopamine is not the plant, not the soil, not the rain. It is the gardener's gentle hand sprinkling water where growth shows promise. If a sprout leans toward light, the gardener remembers and waters that sprout again. Over time, certain paths through the garden flourish while others wither. Some plants become tall trees of habit, others remain delicate flowers of rare joy. The beauty of the garden depends on where the hand lingers. You and your choices can help guide that hand. You can choose which sprouts deserve water, which trails deserve tending. In this way, you work with the river, not against it. When you reflect on memory, you will find dopamine there too. Strong emotions, moments of laughter, surprise, delight, are written deeper because of its glow. A simple day may fade, but the day you first saw the sea, the day you first held a child, the day you found a song that felt like home, these shine brighter in your memory because the lantern burns stronger. The river does not merely guide you toward rewards, it ensures that the map of your past is marked with the places worth revisiting. This is why music from childhood can stir your heart decades later, why a scent can bring tears without warning. The river is both forward-looking and backward-reaching, shaping not only where you go but how you remember. Consider how societies are built upon the currents of dopamine. The promise of reward leads people to create, to share, to trade. Communities form because individuals find joy in cooperation, in shared meals, in collective songs. These glimmers become traditions, rituals that guide generations. The lantern shines not only for the self, but for the group. When you feel pride in contributing, when you feel warmth in belonging, dopamine is there, marking the moment. This connection matters. In this way, the river flows not only inside your skull, but between hearts, weaving lives together into a single current. But there is a caution in this river as well. When its lantern shines too fiercely on one path, whether substance, habit, or obsession, the forest narrows. The trails grow deep but rigid and other paths fade. The river can become a torrent, carrying you swiftly into places where balance is lost. This is the story of addiction, when the glimmer becomes too tied to one object, one act, and the rest of life grows dim. Understanding this helps us meet it with compassion. Addiction is not weakness, but a river that has lost its banks. With care, patience, and new guides, the water can be redirected. New trails can be formed, though they take time to grow. The lantern can learn to shine again on paths that heal rather than harm. Your life then is a dialogue between you and this quiet current. You are not merely carried, you are also a shaper. By noticing what glimmers, by choosing where to linger, you place stones in the water. You can create eddies of calm, pools of rest, flows of progress. You can surround yourself with people and places that invite gentle glimmers rather than frantic ones. You can honor the lantern by giving it spaces that nourish, silence, laughter, kindness, beauty. The river will remember, and it will carry you back to those banks again. Let us close with an image. Imagine yourself at twilight, sitting beside a river that mirrors the sky. The water glows faintly with the last light of day. Each ripple catches a fragment of sunset, then carries it downstream. You place your hand in the water and feel its coolness, its patience. This river is your inner current, flowing since before you could speak, guiding you in ways you never saw. It does not control you, it accompanies you. It whispers in glimmers, not commands. It suggests, nudges, reminds. And in the stillness of twilight, you can thank it, not for ruling your life, but for helping you notice life's beauty again and again. As the stars appear and the lanterns of the world grow faint, the river continues in silence. You rest, knowing it will be there tomorrow, ready to shine softly on the paths you choose. And perhaps, by listening gently, you will help it choose paths that lead not just to wanting, but to peace. Desire is a spark that does not always burn with flame, yet it glows inside you in ways both subtle and strong. It flickers when you catch the scent of food before you taste it, when you hear the first notes of a song you love, when you feel the promise of touch before it arrives. This spark, hidden and soft, is guided by dopamine. It is not the fire itself, but the whisper that says, lean closer, step forward, reach out. Without this hidden spark, life might feel flat, a gray plain without direction. With it, even the smallest things carry light. Imagine a dawn when the world is quiet. The sky is pale, the air is cool, and nothing dramatic happens. Yet you feel a gentle pull to rise, to stretch, to sip something warm. That pull is not hunger alone, nor habit alone. It is dopamine tracing a lantern along your morning path, telling your body, this is good, this will matter, keep going. The hidden spark is what transforms routine into rhythm, turning repeated acts into meaningful rituals. Without it, you might wake and move mechanically. With it, you wake and move with a sense of invitation. Desire begins in the midbrain, in small clusters of cells that have learned through millions of years of survival what matters most. Food, safety, warmth, connection. These are the ancient stones the spark was built to light. Over time, the same pathways learn to glow for new kinds of rewards: music, stories, knowledge, beauty. The spark expanded as your ancestors painted on cave walls, as they watched flames dance, as they listened to one another speak. Now when you stand in a gallery or under a night sky, the same spark glimmers. It tells you that wonder itself can be nourishment. Some scientists describe dopamine as the language of seeking. It does not give you joy directly, it encourages you to search for it. The hidden spark shines brightest not when you hold what you desire, but when you are reaching for it. A fox chasing a rabbit, a student leaning over a problem, a musician reaching for the right chord, all are fueled by this seeking spark. It is not the final taste or sound or answer that first lights the river. It is the path toward it, the promise that soon, very soon, you may find what you need. Desire, then, is less about having and more about moving, less about the destination and more about the leaning forward. Think of a child seeing a wrapped gift. The ribbon shines, the paper crinkles, the shape is mysterious. The gift is unopened, yet the child's body hums with delight. The spark glows strongest here in the moment before. When the gift is finally opened, joy still arrives, but it is softer, steadier. This shows how dopamine guides anticipation. The hidden spark makes you curious, makes you willing to try, makes you patient enough to wait. It is this anticipation that teaches you to trust that effort leads to reward, that paths are worth walking. Now drift into the forest of relationships. The hidden spark glows when you hear a voice calling your name, when you anticipate a meeting, when you wait for a message. The warmth of connection is not only in the moment of embrace, it is in the seconds leading up to it. Dopamine tells your body, this person matters, this closeness will nourish you. That spark is why your heart lifts when you see a familiar face across the room, why your breath softens when a hand reaches toward yours. Desire is not only hunger for objects, it is also longing for presence, for safety, for belonging. The hidden spark can be gentle, like a candle, or strong, like a torch. When balanced, it leads you forward with purpose and curiosity. But when unbalanced, it can drive you into endless seeking without rest. This is why so many of the modern world's inventions, bright screens, endless scrolling, fast rewards, are powerful. They touch the same pathways that evolved to guide survival, but they do so in rapid bursts again and again. The lanterns light too often, the spark grows restless, and your forest of trails becomes tangled. Awareness of this helps you choose which sparks to follow, which to let fade. Still, the spark is not your enemy. It is your teacher, showing you where your attention lingers, what your body values, what your spirit longs for. To notice the spark is to notice yourself. Why do you lean toward this path, this sound, this hand, this idea? Why do some sparks fade and others endure? The answer's not in the spark alone, but in the whole of your life, your memories, your values, your dreams. Dopamine is the messenger. You are the reader of the message. When you pause to listen, you find meaning in the spark's glow. Imagine again the forest trails of your brain. Some sparks light new paths, learning a language, planting a seed, writing a poem. Others light old ones, returning to a favorite book, walking a familiar road, calling an old friend. The balance of new and old is part of the river's wisdom. Too much novelty and you scatter, too much repetition and you grow dull. Dopamine helps weave the two, reminding you that both discovery and comfort are worth seeking. The hidden spark is both torch and candle, guiding you into the unknown and lighting your way home. As evening falls, think of desire not as a storm but as a quiet flame. It flickers in the promise of tomorrow, in the memory of joy, in the rhythm of your breath as you wait for rest. It does not demand, it invites. It does not control, it accompanies. The hidden spark of desire is simply the river reminding you that life is more than survival. It is seeking, learning, connecting, savoring. To honor the spark is to live with curiosity and with patience, trusting that each lantern lit along your path carries you closer not only to reward, but to wonder itself. The spark of desire deepens when you look closely at how it threads itself through both body and mind. It is not just a single flash in the brain, but a rhythm that pulses across your entire being. When dopamine lights the lanterns of your pathways, your heart beats a little quicker, your breath shifts, your senses sharpen. Desire prepares you, not in a loud or violent way, but in a quiet tuning of the strings. You are being readied for the next step, for the reaching forward that life asks of you again and again. Think of an artist beginning a painting. The canvas is blank, the brush is still clean, yet the moment before the first stroke is filled with a kind of brightness, a whisper of what might appear. This anticipation is carried by dopamine-esque glow. The artist may not know what the finished picture will be, but the spark drives the hand to dip the brush to begin. Without that gentle fire, the canvas might remain empty. With it, the first mark is made, and from that mark the whole image unfolds. Desire, then, is the force that moves you from stillness into creation. Consider also the way a gardener kneels by the soil. The seeds in the hand are tiny, almost weightless, and yet within them is the promise of shade, of fruit, of blossoms yet unseen. Planting is an act of faith, and faith is fueled by dopamine's spark. It allows the gardener to imagine the sprout before it breaks the surface, to see in the mind's eye the harvest before it arrives. The hidden spark makes patience possible. It bridges the space between now and later, reminding you that effort today will bring comfort tomorrow. The same rhythm plays out in learning. A student leans over a page, puzzling over strange symbols. Each time a piece makes sense, a lantern flares, saying, "Yes, keep going, this is right." The spark of desire here is not only for knowledge, but for the feeling of understanding. Each solved problem is a spark that fuels the next attempt. Over weeks and months, those sparks become a steady fire, carrying the student through difficulty and doubt. Desire transforms struggle into practice, and practice into skill. Dopamine's spark also binds itself to the stories you tell yourself. When you imagine a future, whether small or grand, the lantern lights as if it were already halfway real. This is why dreams and goals feel magnetic. They are not just ideas, they are sparks in the nervous system, priming you to move. A traveler who dreams of distant mountains, a writer who dreams of finishing a book, a child who dreams of learning to swim, all carry within them the same glow. Even before the mountain is climbed, the book is written, or the water is crossed, dopamine lights the path. Desire turns imagination into momentum. Relationships, too, are woven from this spark. The longing for closeness, for laughter shared, for comfort given and received. These are desires shaped by evolution and culture alike. The spark glows when you hear your name in a kind voice, when you anticipate meeting a friend, when you remember the safety of a loved one's presence. Dopamine does not create love, but it highlights the steps that keep love alive. It whispers, call them back, smile when you see them, hold their hand again. In this way, desire becomes not only personal but communal, a bond that ties one life gently to another. Yet desire can become restless. The same spark that guides can also scatter. In a world filled with endless cues, flashing lights, quick pleasures, instant messages, the lantern can flicker too quickly. It may pull you toward one distraction, then another, leaving you unsatisfied. Scientists describe this as the seeking system gone into overdrive. The lantern shines, but never rests long enough for true contentment. In such moments, balance comes from slowing down, from choosing which sparks to follow, from letting some glimmers fade in favor of those that endure. Imagine sitting with a book. At first, the spark flickers with curiosity. What happens next? What truth waits inside? As the story unfolds, you lean forward, drawn deeper. But if you set the book aside for too many quick distractions, the spark scatters and the story loses its glow. If you stay with it, though, the spark grows steady, carrying you through chapters until the ending blooms. This is the difference between shallow sparks and deep sparks. The hidden flame of desire can scatter into sparks that fade quickly, or it can settle into embers that warm you for hours, days, even years. The body has its own wisdom about desire. Movement itself, walking, dancing, stretching, releases dopamine, and the spark reminds you that effort feels good. This is why a walk can lift a heavy mood, why a song can move your feet before your mind decides. Desire is not only mental, it is physical. It encourages you to keep going, to keep moving, to keep exploring. Even animals show this, pacing and searching not only when hungry, but also when curious. The spark says, there might be something here, look again, take another step. It is a guide not just to survival, but to discovery. Memory, too, is painted by desire. Think of the moments you remember most clearly, the anticipation before a first kiss, the waiting before a performance, the build-up to a celebration. These are times when dopamine's spark was brightest, when the promise of reward was near. Your brain marks these moments deeply, writing them into the story of your life. Desire, in this way, is not just about the future, it is about how you remember the past. The spark colors your memories, turning ordinary minutes into landmarks. Now drift into the idea of wonder. Desire does not belong only to what you can hold in your hands. It belongs also to the stars, to the mysteries that stretch beyond reach. The spark glows when you gaze upward at night, when you ponder questions with no easy answers, when you feel awe in the face of vastness. Dopamine teaches you that wonder itself is rewarding, that seeking knowledge and beauty is as nourishing as seeking food and shelter. The hidden spark of desire is, at its heart, a spark for life itself, for more, for beyond, for possibility. And so desire becomes both map and fuel. It points toward paths worth taking, and it gives you the energy to take them. The hidden spark is not dangerous by nature, it is a gift. It asks you to pay attention, to notice what pulls at your heart, to choose wisely among the many lanterns that light your way. It is easy to forget this when the world shouts with too many lights. But when you pause, when you listen, you can feel which sparks burn steady and which flicker out. Following the steady ones leads you not only to pleasure, but to meaning. At the end of the day, as you rest in stillness, you may notice the spark quieting. This too is part of its rhythm. Desire is not meant to burn endlessly. It is meant to guide you into action, then release you into peace. Like the tide, it comes and goes. Tomorrow it will rise again, whispering softly, leading you toward what matters. Tonight, you can thank it for what it gave, for the steps it inspired, for the moments it illuminated. The hidden spark of desire is always there, but it does not need to blaze. A flicker is enough. A glow is enough. A lantern in the dark is enough to keep you moving forward softly, gently, through the forest of your days. Desire, like a hidden spark, is not meant to burn endlessly. It is a rhythm, rising and falling, guiding and then releasing. To understand this spark fully is to see how it shapes not only moments of longing, but also the quiet resolutions that follow. Dopamine's lantern shines on the steps that matter, but it also learns when to dim, allowing peace to enter. In this way, desire becomes both a guide toward action and a teacher of rest, a reminder that wanting and stillness can live side by side. Imagine standing at the edge of the sea. The waves roll in, each one a promise, each one carrying foam and light. You feel the pull to step into the water to follow its rhythm. This is desire at work, the spark that says, lean forward, taste this moment. But as you linger, you realize that the beauty is not only in the pull. It is also in the pause, in the sound of the tide, in the shimmer on the horizon. The hidden spark invites you to reach, but it also teaches you to notice, to rest, to absorb. Desire is the doorway. Awareness is the home you enter through it. In science, dopamine is often spoken of as prediction and error, as the signal that tells the brain whether life has given more or less than expected. But beneath this calculation lies a deeper poetry. The spark of desire is not only about error correction, it is about hope. It is about the gentle faith that what lies ahead is worth moving toward. A bird sings not knowing if another will answer. A seed pushes upward not knowing if the sun will warm it. You too follow sparks of desire, guided by the quiet hope that life will meet you kindly. Often it does. And when it does not, the river reshapes and you learn to seek elsewhere. Desire can be patient. A painter may spend years on a single vision, returning day after day to the canvas, fueled not by immediate joy but by the spark of becoming. A scientist may spend decades on a question, leaning on the lantern's steady glow to keep searching. Desire here is not frantic but enduring, a low flame that burns without smoke. Such patience shows that dopamine is not only about quick rewards. It is also about the long arc of meaning, the slow unfolding of lives dedicated to something beyond the self. Yet desire can also mislead. When the lantern shines too fiercely on paths that bring no true nourishment, it can lead you into cycles that repeat without rest. The spark becomes a chain, not a guide. This is the shadow of addiction, when the hidden spark is caught on a single hook and cannot let go. But even here there is hope. The brain is a forest of trails, and though some paths grow deep, new ones can always be made. With gentle patience, with support, with new glimmers of connection and care, the lantern can be coaxed onto brighter trails. The hidden spark can learn to shine on balance again. Think of love, one of the deepest forms of desire. At first, it is a fire, a strong glow that pulls you near, but with time it changes. The spark becomes softer, steady, a quiet ember that warms the years. Dopamine guides the early pull, the anticipation, the thrill of closeness. But as love matures, other currents join: oxytocin, serotonin, carrying peace, safety, belonging. Still, the hidden spark remains. It reminds you to keep reaching, to keep noticing, to keep choosing. Without it, even long love could fade into habit. With it, love stays alive, each glance, each touch, each word a small lantern along the shared path. Desire also shapes culture. Humans gather around sparks of shared longing, festivals, music, rituals, celebrations. These are not mere entertainments, they are ways of binding lives together. Dopamine glows when drums beat in unison, when voices rise together in song, when dances circle around a fire. The hidden spark teaches that togetherness itself is rewarding, that joy grows brighter when shared. This is why people return to traditions, why they pass them on. The lanterns of desire are not only personal, they are communal, shining across generations. The hidden spark of desire has another lesson. It teaches you to find balance between seeking and savoring. Seeking moves you forward, savoring lets you rest. Too much seeking and life becomes restless. Too much savoring and life becomes stagnant. Together they create rhythm. Dopamine lights the path of seeking, while other messengers deepen the joy of savoring. Your task is not to silence one for the other, but to let them dance. When you walk in the forest, desire pulls you deeper into the trail, while savoring makes you stop to breathe the scent of pine. Together, they weave a life both full and calm. Memory itself shows this dance. You recall not only what you received, but also what you longed for. The anticipation before a journey, the waiting before a reunion, the quiet hours before a celebration, all glow in memory as brightly as the event itself. This is because dopamine marks the longing, the leaning forward, as deeply as the reward. Desire writes itself into your past as much as into your future, shaping the story of who you are. To reflect on your memories is to see the trail of lanterns that desire lit for you along the way. At night, when you drift toward sleep, the spark dims. The lanterns rest, allowing the body to restore itself. This too is part of the rhythm. You cannot seek endlessly, you must also surrender. In dreams, the spark may flicker again, weaving your desires into symbols and stories, practicing paths for tomorrow. Even in rest, the hidden spark remains, preparing, reminding, guiding. Morning will come, and the lantern will rise with you once more. So what then is the lesson of this hidden spark? It is not to chase endlessly, nor to silence desire completely. It is to listen, to notice which sparks endure and which fade, to choose those that lead to meaning, to allow yourself both the joy of reaching and the peace of arriving. Dopamine is the messenger, but you are the one who decides where the message leads. Desire can guide you toward growth, connection, wonder, and creation. It can also lead you astray if left unbalanced. But always the spark is there, waiting for you to see it clearly. Imagine a lantern in your hands. It glows softly, not blind. Ding, not demanding. It lights the next step, just enough to move forward. You do not need to see the whole path. You do not need to burn the forest bright. The hidden spark of desire is enough. Trust its glow and walk gently. Let it guide you not only to what you want, but to what makes life rich, kind, and whole. And when the lantern dims, when the spark rests, let yourself rest as well. For in the balance between wanting and peace lies the true gift of being alive. Joy does not always arrive like thunder. Sometimes it comes like a hush, like a soft light spreading through the branches of morning. Inside your body, joy has a chemistry, a tender weaving of signals, a blending of molecules that makes your heart lighter, your breath slower, your gaze softer. Among these molecules, dopamine plays a part, but not alone. It is joined by others, serotonin, oxytocin, endorphins, each carrying their own lanterns, each adding their own colors to the glow. Together they create a gentle chemistry, one that is less about fireworks and more about the warmth of a steady flame. Imagine sitting by a window on a rainy day. The world outside is quiet, the drops tapping softly against the glass. You sip a cup of tea and warmth moves through you. This is joy in its most delicate form. Dopamine may have guided you to make the tea, anticipating its comfort, but the act of sipping, the calm, the presence that comes from the orchestra of chemistry inside you. Serotonin steadies your mood, oxytocin deepens the sense of safety if a loved one is near, endorphins bring ease to the body. Joy is not a single spark, but a harmony, a blending that makes life feel whole. Scientists have long wondered why joy exists at all. From survival's view, hunger, fear, and pain have obvious purposes. They keep you alive, but joy is more mysterious. Perhaps it is the thread that keeps you returning to what sustains you not just in body but in spirit. Joy teaches you to seek connection, to share food and laughter, to rest in beauty. It is nature's way of saying, these are not luxuries, these are essentials. The gentle chemistry of joy keeps you tethered to the practices that make life more than survival, that make it worth living. Think of the laughter of children. It rises without plan, carried by games, by silliness, by surprise. In that laughter, dopamine lights the seeking of fun, endorphins soften the body, oxytocin grows the bond between friends. What seems like play is, at the chemical level, a lesson in trust, in learning, in safety. Joy teaches children not only how to smile, but how to live among others. The chemistry of joy is not a decoration, it is a foundation. Without it, connection would wither, and survival itself would falter. Now picture a field of flowers bending in the breeze. A bee moves from one bloom to the next, drawn by nectar. To the bee, this is nourishment, guided by dopamine's lanterns of reward. To you watching, it is beauty. Your eyes drink in the colors, your mind rests in the pattern of petals. Here too, the gentle chemistry of joy hums quietly. Your brain marks the scene as safe, as worth remembering, as soothing to return to. Joy in this moment is the body's way of saying, stay here a little longer, let the world's quiet gifts refill you. Joy is not always loud or visible. Sometimes it is the comfort of a familiar song, sometimes the softness of a hand in yours, sometimes the deep breath that feels like enough. At such moments, the brain's chemistry shifts subtly. Dopamine carries the spark of anticipation, serotonin steadies the tone, oxytocin deepens the bond, endorphins ease the weight of being alive. Together they form a net, a safety, a home inside you. You may not notice the molecules, but you feel their music. You know joy not by its science, but by its warmth. This gentle chemistry is also about memory. Think of how a smell can bring you back years in an instant, the scent of bread, of rain, of pine. The memory is not just recalled, it is felt. Joy floods again because dopamine helped mark that moment deeply when it first happened, and serotonin and oxytocin now recreate the sense of calm or connection. Your brain is not replaying facts, it is replaying chemistry. This is why joy feels timeless, why certain moments never fade. The gentle chemistry leaves traces, and those traces light up when touched again. Sometimes joy comes after struggle. A runner crossing the finish line, a farmer gathering the harvest, a student finishing a long study, all feel the wave of chemistry that rewards persistence. Dopamine's lantern has guided the steps, step after step, day after day. And when the goal is reached, endorphins ease the body, serotonin steadies the mood, oxytocin blooms in shared celebration. Joy here is not sudden, it is earned. It carries the echo of every effort, every moment of patience, every doubt overcome. This kind of joy is deep, an ember rather than a spark, lasting long after the moment has peaked. In relationships, joy is the thread that holds hearts together. A glance that makes you smile, a joke that sparks laughter, a hug that eases fear, all are painted with this gentle chemistry. The molecules are small, invisible, but their effects are vast. They weave bonds strong enough to carry families, communities, even nations. When you feel safe in someone's presence, when you share in their joy, your own chemistry shifts. Oxytocin rises, dopamine glows, serotonin steadies. Joy becomes a shared current, flowing between bodies, reminding you that you are not alone. But joy is also fragile. Stress, loneliness, and exhaustion can dim its chemistry. When the lanterns of dopamine flicker too much, when serotonin sinks, when oxytocin fades in isolation, joy feels distant. This is why care is needed: rest, connection, gentle practices that refill the chemistry of joy. A walk, a song, a conversation, a quiet hour of stillness. These are not luxuries but medicine. They invite the molecules back, they invite the glow to return. The gentle chemistry of joy is like a garden. It must be tended softly, patiently, with love. At night, as you drift into sleep, this chemistry rests as well. Dreams may stir sparks of joy, weaving your day into stories. The brain repairs itself, balances its messengers, prepares for tomorrow's glimmers. When you wake, the chemistry is ready to light again, to guide you toward connection, comfort, wonder. Joy waits, not always loud, not always obvious, but always possible. It hums beneath the surface, like a song you know by heart, ready to rise whenever you pause to listen. So let us think of joy as not a treasure to chase, but a chemistry to honor. It is built into you, written into your cells, waiting to be awakened by simple things. A smile, a breath, a leaf in the wind. The gentle chemistry of joy does not demand grand events. It whispers, look here, notice this, let it be enough. When you follow, the lanterns glow, the molecules weave their music, and life feels not just survivable but luminous. That is the gift of this gentle chemistry. That is the science of joy that feels like poetry. If joy is a gentle chemistry, then its rhythm is like a tide, flowing in and out, shaping the shorelines of your days. It is not one molecule or one moment, but a weaving of many threads that meet and part, rise and fall. Dopamine guides you toward what you seek. Serotonin steadies the mood once you are there. Oxytocin deepens the bond, and endorphins soften the body. Together they form a quiet symphony, one that plays not in bursts alone, but in long, flowing notes. To listen to this music is to understand that joy is not a rare treasure. It is a natural rhythm, always available if you pause long enough to feel it. Think of the way sunlight falls on your face in the morning. The warmth is simple, the air still cool. Your brain notes the shift. This light is safe, this light means life. Dopamine may spark as you stretch and imagine breakfast. Serotonin steadies the calm, oxytocin blooms if someone sits beside you, endorphins ease the muscles as you move. None of these is dramatic, but together they create the sense that the morning is kind, that being alive is enough. This is the gentle chemistry of joy, arriving without fanfare, carried in the ordinary. Science tells us that joy has roots in survival, yet its branches reach into something greater. When your ancestors gathered food, dopamine lit the seeking and endorphins softened the effort. When they returned to share the food, oxytocin bonded them, serotonin steadied them, and together they laughed, rested, sang. These chemical messengers made survival more likely, yes, but they also made life richer, sweeter, worth continuing. Joy is not just a tool of survival, it is an inheritance of beauty, a reminder that being alive is more than breathing. It is feeling, connecting, wondering. Notice how music stirs you. A melody rises, a rhythm pulls, a harmony blooms. Your body sways, your breath shifts, your mind clears. Here, dopamine sparks at each note you anticipate, serotonin steadies the calm, endorphins ease the body as you move, oxytocin rises if you sing with others. Music is chemistry made audible, joy made into sound. Even without words, the song enters your body and the molecules shift, lighting you from within. This is why people across cultures, across centuries, have gathered in song. The gentle chemistry of joy becomes a bridge between souls. Joy also blooms in movement. When you walk through a forest, the air cool and green, each step carries rhythm. Dopamine glows at the sight of something new, serotonin steadies your mood, endorphins ease the body, oxytocin may bloom if you walk with a friend. By the end, your body is calmer, your mind lighter. Scientists call it exercise-induced joy, poets call it peace. Both are true. The gentle chemistry is a gift your body gives when you move with patience, when you let your senses fill with the world around you. Consider the bond between a parent and child. When a baby cries and is soothed, oxytocin rises in both, knitting trust. When laughter bursts during play, dopamine glows, endorphins ease, serotonin steadies. These moments write themselves deep into the brain. The gentle chemistry of joy becomes a memory of safety, a map the child will carry into adulthood. To feel joy in connection is to feel the body's way of saying, "You belong here, you are safe, stay close." This chemistry does not fade with age. It lives in every embrace, every shared glance, every moment of love. Sometimes joy comes after sorrow. When you have endured hardship, when the days have felt heavy and the spark dim, even a small glimmer of joy feels vast. A laugh after grief, a sunrise after a long night, a hand reaching toward you after loneliness, all feel like gifts. Here the chemistry is not new but renewed. Dopamine glows again, serotonin steadies, oxytocin reconnects, endorphins soften pain. Joy after sorrow feels like the body's way of reminding you that healing is possible, that life still has lanterns waiting. The gentle chemistry is both fragile and strong, able to dim in suffering but able also to return. Think also of the joy of giving. When you share food, time, or kindness, your body rewards you with its chemistry. Dopamine lights at the act, oxytocin deepens the bond, serotonin steadies the calm, endorphins ease the warmth. This is why generosity feels good, not because you gain, but because your brain marks connection as valuable. The gentle chemistry of joy is not selfish. It blooms in both giving and receiving. It teaches that your happiness is tied to the happiness of others, that the lanterns shine brightest when shared. The memory of joy is itself a source of joy. When you recall a happy day, the chemistry stirs again. Dopamine glows as you anticipate the remembered moment, serotonin steadies, oxytocin warms, endorphins ease. The past becomes present again, not in fact but in feeling. This is why memories are precious. They are not only stories, they are chemical echoes, lanterns relit by thought. To sit quietly and remember joy is to experience it twice, once in living, once in recalling. The gentle chemistry does not vanish. It waits, ready to glow again when you call it back. Joy is also found in awe. When you stand before mountains or look into the vastness of the night sky, your chemistry shifts. Dopamine sparks at the newness, serotonin steadies, endorphins calm the breath, oxytocin may rise if you share the view with another. Or is joy stretched wide, joy made vast? It humbles you, yet fills you. The gentle chemistry of joy shows that life is not only about small comforts, but also about great mysteries. It reminds you that wonder is as nourishing as bread, that your spirit needs vastness as much as safety. Yet joy is not constant. The chemistry flows and ebbs. Stress can quiet it, fear can block it, loneliness can dim it. But joy is resilient. The lanterns may flicker, but they do not vanish. With rest, with kindness, with patience, they rise again. A walk, a song, a shared meal, a moment of stillness, all can relight the chemistry. Joy is not about eliminating sorrow. It is about trusting that even in sorrow, the spark can return. The gentle chemistry teaches that healing is possible, that light can follow shadow, that peace can follow struggle. So let us see joy not as rare, but as woven into the fabric of life. It is there in morning light, in music, in laughter, in rest, in love, in giving, in memory, in awe. It is built into your body, waiting always to be stirred. The gentle chemistry of joy is not a secret, it is a rhythm. When you notice it, when you honor it, when you tend it with care, life becomes not just survival, but radiance. The molecules are small, but their music is vast. They turn ordinary moments into lanterns, and lanterns into paths, and paths into a life that feels whole. That is the gift of this gentle chemistry. That is joy's quiet truth. Joy, when seen through the lens of science and felt through the quiet of living, becomes less a fleeting spark and more a lifelong companion. It is the soft chemistry that shapes your mornings, the warm tide that carries your afternoons, the hush that rests with you in the evenings. Though you cannot see it, the molecules dance within you, carrying whispers of safety, comfort, and wonder. To recognize this is to understand that joy is not something distant, not something rare. It is already here, woven into your breath, your steps, your gaze. Picture yourself walking through a meadow at dusk. The air cools, the sky glows faintly with the last of the day's light. A bird sings, then falls silent. In that pause, you feel something stir inside you, a sense of enoughness, of belonging. This is the gentle chemistry of joy in its purest form. Dopamine may have brought you to the meadow, guiding your steps with curiosity. Serotonin steadies your mood as you walk. Oxytocin glows if you share the moment with another. Endorphins ease the calm of your body. Together they create the warmth that rises unbidden. You are not chasing anything. You are simply being, and being is enough. The beauty of this chemistry is that it teaches balance. Life is not endless pursuit, nor is it endless stillness. Joy thrives in the dance between. When you seek, dopamine lights the way. When you savor, serotonin holds you steady. When you connect, oxytocin weaves you closer. When you rest, endorphins soften your edges. Together they remind you there is time to reach forward and there is time to lean back. To ignore one is to lose harmony. To embrace both is to live fully, gently, with grace. Think of joy in the context of memory once more. You may recall the laughter of friends long gone, the warmth of family meals, the hush of nature on days when you walked alone. Each memory carries chemistry still. When you summon it, your body responds as if the moment lives again. This is why nostalgia is bittersweet. It is joy rekindled, tinged with the ache of absence. And yet, even in that ache, there is warmth. The gentle chemistry of joy teaches that nothing is entirely lost. What has been felt remains, a lantern that can be relit whenever you remember. Joy is also a teacher of resilience. When sorrow comes, as it must, the body's chemistry shifts. The lanterns grow dim, the molecules scatter, but they do not disappear. Slowly, with care, with time, they gather again. A walk in fresh air, a kind word, a soft song can begin to relight them. Dopamine flickers, serotonin steadies, oxytocin comforts, endorphins ease. And one morning, after many heavy ones, you feel a small glow. This is the resilience of joy. It may retreat, but it never abandons you. It waits for the right conditions to bloom again. Consider how communities build joy together. A festival in a village, lanterns strung across the square, music rising into night. Here the chemistry multiplies. Each person's dopamine glows at the novelty, serotonin steadies the mood, oxytocin deepens bonds through touch and laughter, endorphins ease the rhythm of dance. Together, the joy is greater than it could ever be alone. The gentle chemistry is communal, showing that your happiness is bound to the happiness of others. To share joy is to double it. To celebrate together is to weave molecules into harmony across many hearts. Nature, too, is a steady giver of joy. The sight of trees swaying, the sound of rivers flowing, the smell of earth after rain, all stir chemistry in your brain. Evolution has written these responses into you, marking green landscapes as safe, water as life, open skies as freedom. When you walk in nature, the lanterns glow not just from novelty, but from memory written deep into your species' history. This is why nature calms, why it heals. The gentle chemistry of joy is aligned with the earth itself, reminding you that you are part of a larger rhythm. Joy also thrives in stillness. When you sit in silence, when you breathe deeply, when you let thoughts settle, the molecules shift. The body releases tension, the mind softens. Dopamine may glow gently at the anticipation of peace. Serotonin steadies your calm. Endorphins soothe your muscles. Oxytocin may rise if you feel connected to something greater. This is why meditation, prayer, or simple rest bring lightness. The gentle chemistry does not need noise or motion. It can bloom in quiet, in pause, in the spaces between. Even creativity is lit by joy. When a writer finds the right word, when a painter blends the right color, when a musician touches the right chord, the chemistry flares. Dopamine marks the discovery, serotonin steadies the mood, endorphins ease the body in flow, oxytocin may rise if the art is shared. Creativity is not only about expression, it is about joy's chemistry weaving itself into form. Each creation is both product and process, both effort and delight. The gentle chemistry teaches that making is itself a reward. At life's end, the chemistry of joy may shift, but it does not vanish. Elders may find joy not in grand pursuits, but in simple presences, the warmth of sunlight, the sound of children's laughter, the closeness of family. The molecules still work, still glow, still steady. Joy becomes less about reaching and more about savoring, less about chasing and more about holding. In this, the gentle chemistry teaches its final lesson. Joy is not about quantity but quality, not about speed but depth. It remains until the last, a companion as natural as breath. So let us see joy not as something to grasp, but as something to notice. It is already in your body, already in your life. In laughter, in memory, in music, in nature, in rest, in connection. The molecules weave their quiet music whether or not you listen. But when you do listen, when you pause to feel, the chemistry becomes poetry. Joy rises not as a storm, but as a steady river carrying you gently, guiding you softly, reminding you always, you are alive, you are connected, you are enough. And so, as night falls and you rest, remember the gentle chemistry that hums within. It will carry you through dreams, mend your body, soothe your mind, and greet you again at dawn. Joy is not something you must chase. It is already within you, waiting to be noticed, waiting to be honored. That is the science. That is the poetry. That is the gentle chemistry of joy. Longing is a road that winds quietly through the heart, a path marked not by footsteps but by feelings that stretch beyond the present moment. It is the soft ache of wanting something just out of reach, the gentle pull toward a memory, a dream, or a possibility not yet born. Inside your brain, longing is carried by dopamine's light. It whispers, keep moving, keep searching, there is more to find. But longing is not only about desire. It is also about distance, about patience, about the way the heart stretches toward what it does not yet hold. Imagine the horizon at dusk. The sky glows with colors you cannot touch, and yet you feel drawn to it. This is longing, not for something you can take, but for something that fills you with wonder. The chemistry of dopamine lights the pathways of longing, creating anticipation, a forward tilt of the spirit. You may not even know what you're reaching for. The lantern shines anyway, teaching you that life is not only about what you have, but about what you hope for, what you lean toward, what you dream. Longing lives in the midbrain circuits, the same that guide desire. But where desire is often about the near and the reachable, longing stretches farther. It may be the yearning for a loved one far away, the wish for a future not yet shaped, the pull toward meaning you cannot yet name. In these moments, dopamine does not shout, it hums. It marks the path, keeping it alive even when the destination is uncertain. Longing is a softer lantern, one that burns slow, one that teaches patience. Think of a traveler leaving home. The moment the journey begins, longing blooms, longing for the familiar faces, the warm meals, the sounds of a known place. Yet at the same time, longing pulls toward what lies ahead, toward discovery. This dual pull is the essence of longing, the heart stretched between past and future, comfort and adventure. Dopamine lights both ends, teaching the traveler that leaving is not losing, but expanding, that longing is the space where growth happens. Longing also shapes memory. When you think of a person you miss, dopamine lights the circuits that once glowed in their presence. The chemistry relives the closeness, painting the absence with color. Longing is not only pain, it is the reminder of love, of connection, of meaning. Without longing, memories would fade into flatness. With it, they stay alive, glowing lanterns along the path of who you have been and who you may be again. The pathways of longing keep memory warm. Even in simple acts, longing hums. The smell of bread baking reminds you of childhood. A song on the radio recalls a summer long gone. A letter unopened stirs anticipation. These moments are not only nostalgia or curiosity, they are longing woven into daily life. Dopamine creates the spark, but the feeling runs deeper through heart and memory alike. The pathways of longing connect the chemistry of the brain with the poetry of the soul, reminding you that what you miss, what you hope, what you dream, all shape the way you walk. Science tells us that longing keeps us moving, keeps us reaching beyond the present. Without it, people might settle into stillness too easily, never striving, never growing. Longing is what pushes a poet to write verses for a love unseen, what drives a scientist to search for truths beyond today's answers, what leads a wanderer into forests not yet mapped. The chemistry of longing fuels both survival and beauty, both necessity and wonder. It is the ache that leads to discovery, the ache that makes life feel full. But longing is not always easy. Sometimes it hurts, stretching the heart without resolution. To miss someone, to want something distant, to dream of what cannot be, these are tender aches. Yet even in these, the pathways of dopamine are at work, keeping the possibility alive, keeping the flame from dying. Longing reminds you that you care, that you hope, that you are alive to what is beyond yourself. It is the cost of love and of dreaming, but also the proof of them. At night, when the world quiets, longing often grows stronger. The brain drifts into memories, into imagined futures, into the echo of what is not here. The gentle chemistry lights these pathways softly, weaving them into dreams. Longing in sleep is not a curse, it is practice. The brain rehearses the reaching, preparing for tomorrow's choices. When you wake, the lantern still glows, guiding you toward the people, the acts, the places that matter. Most longing carries you through darkness, keeping hope alive until light returns. So let us see longing not as emptiness, but as fullness stretched thin. It is the reminder that life is larger than today, that your spirit leans forward, that your heart remembers. The pathways of longing are not flaws, they are bridges. They connect past to future, memory to dream, self to other. They remind you that you are more than the moment, that your story is still unfolding, that the horizon still waits. To walk with longing is to walk with hope, to let the lantern of dopamine light your way through the shadows of distance and into the glow of tomorrow. Longing deepens when you listen to the ways it touches every corner of your life. It is not a single feeling, but a quiet thread woven through memory, desire, and imagination. Dopamine lights its path, guiding you toward what is missing, what is hoped for, what is yet to come. But longing is more than chemistry alone. It is the soft ache that teaches patience, the steady hum that keeps you moving when certainty is far away. Imagine standing by a river watching its current flow. The water carries leaves, twigs, reflections of the sky. You cannot hold it, yet you feel its pull. This is longing, an energy that flows forward beyond your reach, carrying promises you cannot yet touch. Dopamine glows with each possibility, each what if, each maybe. It does not demand, it invites. It whispers, there is more ahead, keep looking. Longing is not about possession, but about direction. It keeps you leaning toward life, even when life feels uncertain. Consider the way longing shapes love. When two people part, even for a short time, longing grows in the space between them. Each memory glows brighter in absence. Each thought of return sparks anticipation. The chemistry of dopamine lights these pathways, keeping the bond alive. Longing reminds you that connection matters, that absence is not the end but the space where love deepens. It is why a reunion feels so rich, why a simple embrace after days apart can bring tears. Longing makes the ordinary extraordinary by painting it with distance. Longing also stirs creativity. A poet may write not because they have all the words, but because they long for them. An artist paints not only what is seen, but what is yearned for. A musician composes melodies that carry the ache of what cannot be spoken. Dopamine guides these acts, rewarding the small discoveries, the flashes of expression. Longing becomes art, shaping beauty from absence. Without it, much of human creativity would be silent. The pathways of longing turn emptiness into music, distance into color, memory into form. Think about the longing for home. Even when you are safe, even when you are well, there is often a pull toward the place where your roots began. The smell of familiar food, the sound of a language, the sight of a landscape you once knew, all stir dopamine-esque glow. Longing for home is not just nostalgia. It is the body remembering safety, warmth, belonging. It is why returning to old places feels like stepping into your own past, why the lanterns of memory light so brightly there. Longing keeps the thread of home alive, even across years and miles. Sometimes longing is for the future, for things not yet built or lived. A student longs for knowledge, a traveler longs for distant lands, a dreamer longs for change. Here, dopamine guides the search, rewarding each step closer to the imagined horizon. The longing itself becomes fuel, giving energy to efforts that would otherwise feel heavy. Longing is not weakness, it is momentum. It is the force that pushes you to grow, to create, to move beyond the present into what could be. But longing can also be heavy. When what you long for feels impossible, the ache deepens. Missing someone lost, dreaming of a future that cannot come, wishing for what time has taken, these are tender sorrows. Yet even here, the pathways of dopamine keep the memory alive, the hope glowing faintly. Longing in grief is proof of love, proof of meaning. It hurts, but it also honors. It says, this mattered, this still matters. The ache itself is a lantern, showing where your heart has lived deeply. In community, longing becomes shared. A people may long for freedom, for peace, for justice. Together, their dopamine pathways light at each step toward change, each sign of progress. The ache binds them, fuels them, teaches them patience. Longing here is not private but collective, a chemistry woven through many lives at once. It is why movements endure, why hopes cross generations. The pathways of longing extend beyond one brain, becoming the song of many hearts leaning toward the same horizon. Notice how longing feels in your body. It is not only thought, it is sensation. A tightness in the chest, a flutter in the stomach, a heaviness in the throat. These are the body's ways of carrying the chemistry. Dopamine primes the system, sharpening attention, keeping the longing alive. The body remembers with you, holds the ache with you. Longing is not abstract, it is embodied. It shows that what you miss or hope for is part of your whole being, not just your mind. At times, longing hides in small things. The glance at a photograph, the pause before a closed door, the sigh at the end of a day. Each carries a flicker of what is not here, what you wish were here. These moments may pass quickly, but they are real. They are the soft background music of living, the quiet hum of pathways always active. To notice them is to notice the depth of your own heart, the way you are always reaching, always remembering, always hoping. Longing also teaches gratitude. When the thing you long for finally arrives, a letter, a voice, a touch, the joy is sharper because of the waiting. The chemistry surges, dopamine glowing bright, oxytocin binding, serotonin steadying, endorphins easing. Longing makes the reward sweeter, the moment richer. Without longing, joy might come and go unnoticed. With it, joy blooms, framed by the ache that came before. Longing is not only absence, it is preparation for fullness. So let us honor longing not as emptiness, but as proof of care. It shows you where your heart leans, where your spirit reaches, where your life feels open. The pathways of longing are not mistakes. They are lanterns guiding you through the shadows of absence toward the light of presence. They remind you that you are alive not only to what is here, but also to what could be, what has been, what might return. Longing is the bridge between past and future, memory and dream. To walk its path is to live fully, tenderly, hopefully, even in the face of distance. Longing is not a flaw in the human heart. It is a companion, a quiet presence that shapes the rhythm of living. To walk with longing is to walk with the reminder that life is larger than this moment, that your story reaches backward into memory and forward into dream. The pathways of dopamine light these stretches, keeping the ache alive, but also keeping hope alive. Longing teaches you to lean forward gently, even when the horizon is far away. Think of the seasons of longing. In youth, it glows as curiosity, the pull toward new places, new friendships, new discoveries. In adulthood, it deepens into responsibility, the longing for stability, for love to endure, for children to thrive, for work to matter. In later years, it softens into memory, the longing for faces remembered, for moments gone, for the tenderness of what once was. At every stage, longing shifts, but it never leaves. It remains the thread that connects you to time, to meaning, to the flow of your own becoming. Longing is not only for people or places, it is also for states of being. You may long for peace in a noisy world, for clarity in confusion, for freedom in restraint. Dopamine guides these longings too, lighting the paths toward practices that bring you closer, walking in quiet, sitting in meditation, speaking honestly, breathing deeply. The pathways of longing remind you that fulfillment is not always about adding, but sometimes about returning to simplicity, to balance, to the heart of what matters most. Even art is a form of longing made visible. A painting often captures what the artist yearned for: beauty, understanding, expression. A poem holds the ache of what cannot be touched. A song carries the echo of desire or absence. Dopamine fuels the creation, rewarding each step of expression. Yet what the audience feels is longing too, the recognition of something within themselves mirrored in the art. In this way, longing binds creator and listener, painter and viewer, writer and reader. It becomes a shared lantern, glowing across time and distance. Longing also shapes faith. Across cultures, people have looked to the stars, to the earth, to the unseen, longing for meaning greater than themselves. Rituals, prayers, and songs are pathways of longing, illuminated by dopamine's spark. They are not always about answers, but about the act of reaching. To long for the infinite is to acknowledge that life is more than survival, that the human spirit leans beyond what it knows. This longing, whether named as faith, wonder, or awe, is itself a form of connection, a lantern held high against the mystery. But longing can be heavy, especially when tied to loss. The absence of someone beloved can feel like a wound that does not heal. Each memory glows with dopamine's light, but the lantern points to what cannot return. Here, longing is sorrow, and yet even this sorrow is sacred, for it honors what was real, what was loved, what mattered. To long for someone gone is to keep them alive in memory, to carry their presence forward. The pathways of longing turn absence into remembrance, reminding you that love is stronger than time. In smaller ways, longing moves you through every day. The pause before a meal, the anticipation before a meeting, the waiting for words to arrive, all are currents of longing. They give shape to your hours, turning simple routines into arcs of anticipation and fulfillment. Without longing, days would flatten into sameness. With it, each act is given texture, a before and after, a reaching and an arrival. The lanterns of dopamine light even these small arcs, teaching you to see meaning in the ordinary. Longing also teaches humility. It reminds you that not everything can be held, not everything can be answered, not everything can be fixed. Some longings remain open, unresolved, and yet they shape you still. The ache itself becomes part of your identity, part of your way of loving the world. To accept longing without rushing to end it is to live gently, to allow mystery, to walk with patience. The pathways of longing are not roads to be closed, but rivers to be followed, even when they do not reach the sea. Community is often born in longing. A people long for safety and they build villages. They long for understanding and they tell stories. They long for beauty and they create music, dance, art. Each act is a response to longing, each tradition a lantern passed down. Dopamine fuels the seeking, oxytocin binds the togetherness, serotonin steadies the mood, endorphins ease the effort. Together, the chemistry of longing builds cultures, weaving lives into patterns that last beyond individuals. Longing is not only private, it is collective, the song of many hearts leaning in the same direction. At night, longing softens into dreams. The mind replays what it misses, imagines what it hopes for, rehearses what it cannot yet hold. Dreams are pathways of longing given form. Sometimes they soothe, sometimes they unsettle, but always they reveal the stretches of your heart. In this way, longing does not sleep. It flows through you even as you rest, reminding you in dreams that your spirit is still reaching, still remembering, still alive. And so we come to see longing not as a wound, but as a compass. It shows you where your heart points, what you value, what you cannot forget, what you hope to create. The pathways of longing lit by dopamine are not chains, they are directions. They may ache, but they also guide. They remind you that you are a seeker, that life is an unfolding, that your story is not yet complete. Picture yourself standing again at the horizon. The sky glows with colors you cannot hold. You feel the ache of distance, but also the warmth of possibility. This is longing, alive and tender, guiding you forward. The lantern of dopamine shines softly on the path, not demanding, not forcing, only inviting. To follow it is to honor your heart. To walk with it is to honor your life. Longing will always be there, not as emptiness but as light, not as weakness but as proof that you are alive to love, to hope, to dream. So let us rest here with longing as companion. Let us trust its pathways even when they ache, for in their glow is the poetry of being human, the reminder that life is larger than now, that your spirit is always leaning forward, that the lantern will always light the way softly, steadily, through the shadows and into tomorrow. Wanting is a current, always moving, always reaching. Peace is a still lake, calm and wide, holding the sky in its reflection. Between these two states flows the rhythm of life. Inside you, dopamine fuels wanting, urging you toward rewards, discoveries, and joys. But alongside it, other messengers help you rest, reminding you that stillness too is necessary. The balance between wanting and peace is not a battle but a dance, a gentle weaving of forward motion and quiet pause. Imagine a child chasing fireflies at dusk. Each spark in the air lights a rush of wanting, the desire to catch, to hold, to see up close. Dopamine glows with every flicker, yet when the child stops, sitting in the grass to watch the fireflies shimmer freely, peace arrives. The chase was joy, but so is the stillness. Both are needed. The pathways of the brain remind you of this balance every day, the push to seek, the pull to rest. Without one, life grows stagnant. Without the other, life grows restless. In the modern world, wanting often takes the lead. Bright screens, quick pleasures, constant signals stir dopamine again and again. The lanterns glow too often, leaving little room for peace. You may find yourself chasing without end, seeking without pause, leaning always forward. Yet beneath this rush, your body whispers for balance. Serotonin calls for calm, oxytocin for connection, endorphins for ease. Peace waits patiently, like a lake beside the rushing current. When you stop to breathe, to notice, to rest, the chemistry shifts. The lantern dims and the water stills. Think of a musician playing. Each note leads to the next, driven by wanting, the pull to resolve, to complete the phrase. But between notes lies silence, and in silence lives peace. Without wanting, the music would not move. Without peace, the music would be N. The brain works the same way. Dopamine drives the melody of seeking, but the pauses, the rests, the calm chemicals weave harmony. Balance makes the song. This balance is ancient. Animals in the wild show it clearly. A lion hungers, dopamine drives the hunt, the chase, the leap. But once the meal is shared, peace settles in. The lion rests in the sun, the body calms, the chemistry shifts. Wanting and peace take turns. Humans carry the same rhythm. Work and rest, hunger and satisfaction, desire and stillness, all must flow into each other. When one dominates, health falters. When both dance together, life feels whole. Consider how this balance shapes relationships. In the first glow of love, dopamine burns bright, urging closeness, igniting desire. Every glance, every word feels charged. But lasting love depends also on peace, the calm presence, the steady bond, the comfort of silence together. Oxytocin and serotonin rise here, balancing dopamine's spark. The balance between wanting and peace makes love not only thrilling but enduring, not only a fire but a home. Even in learning, the balance matters. A student driven only by wanting may burn out, chasing achievement without pause. But when peace joins, when the mind rests between efforts, understanding deepens. Dopamine lights the pursuit, but rest allows the brain to weave new connections, to let knowledge settle. Wanting moves you forward, peace lets you absorb. Together they turn effort into wisdom. Nature shows the same truth. Rivers rush, carving valleys, carrying life. Lakes rest, reflecting mountains, holding stillness. Both are water, both are needed. The balance between wanting and peace is part of the earth itself. To live in balance is to align with this rhythm, to move when it is time, to rest when it is time, to honor both hunger and stillness as sacred. At night, as you drift to sleep, the balance shifts. Dopamine quiets, the lanterns dim, and peace takes over. The chemistry of rest repairs your body, restores your mind, prepares you for tomorrow's wants. In the morning, the lanterns rise again and wanting returns. This daily cycle is a reminder that the balance is not something you must force. It is written into your being, as natural as the tide, as steady as the seasons. So let us see wanting and peace not as opposites, but as partners. Wanting moves you to create, to connect, to dream. Peace lets you savor, to belong, to breathe. The dance between them is the essence of living. When you honor both, your days flow with rhythm. When you forget one, life feels out of tune. To remember is simple: chase when you must, rest when you can, and trust that both are part of the same song. The balance between wanting and peace is like a seesaw, gently tipping from one side to the other. Neither side should remain forever pressed to the ground, for movement is the life of the seesaw. Wanting lifts you toward the future, while peace settles you into the present. Dopamine is the lantern of wanting, shining on the paths ahead. Serotonin and oxytocin, along with endorphins, hold the space of peace, softening you into stillness, reminding you that being is enough. Together, they shape a rhythm more ancient than words. Picture yourself walking along a forest path. Each step is fueled by wanting, the curiosity of what lies ahead, the hope of a clearing, the anticipation of a view. Dopamine lights these moments, keeping your steps moving. Yet at some point you stop. The path is quiet, the air thick with pine, a bird singing in the distance. In this pause, peace arrives. Your body softens, your breath slows, and serotonin steadies you. Wanting led you into the forest, but peace teaches you to stay. Both are necessary. Without wanting, you would not have walked. Without peace, you would not have noticed. In everyday life, wanting often takes the louder voice. The modern world is full of signals, the ping of a message, the glow of a screen, the promise of new things always waiting. Each one stirs dopamine, each one a spark of wanting, but peace is quieter. It does not flash, it does not call. It waits patiently like still water. To find balance, you must choose to listen for peace, to seek it in silence, in nature, in small rituals of calm. When you give peace space, the brain shifts, the chemistry steadies, the lanterns soften into glow rather than glare. Relationships are shaped by this balance. At first, wanting drives the chase, the excitement of newness, the thrill of discovery, the pull of attraction. But for bonds to last, peace must join. The calm of sitting together without words, the comfort of familiar presence, the steady glow of trust, these are the gifts of peace. Dopamine may light the early sparks, but oxytocin and serotonin carry the long flame. Balance is what transforms desire into devotion, spark into home, longing into belonging. Consider work and rest. Wanting urges you to create, to strive, to push toward goals. Dopamine reward. Each small success, each step forward. But peace ensures that work does not consume you. It arrives when you pause to reflect, when you breathe after effort, when you rest in the satisfaction of what has been done. Without wanting, progress halts. Without peace, progress becomes a storm that never clears. Balance gives work meaning and rest sweetness. Even within the body, this balance is mirrored. When you move, dopamine and adrenaline rise, preparing muscles, sharpening senses. When you rest, serotonin steadies and endorphins soothe, lowering tension, easing breath. The body cannot remain in endless pursuit. It cannot remain in endless stillness. The alternation between wanting and peace is how life is sustained, how energy is renewed, how health is preserved. To honor this cycle is to live in alignment with your own nature. Longing often belongs to wanting, but it too finds balance in peace. You may ache for someone far away, for a dream not yet realized, for a memory lost to time. Dopamine keeps the longing alive, lighting the path of yearning. Yet peace allows you to hold that ache gently without being consumed. To sit with longing, to breathe with it, to accept its presence without rushing to end it. This is peace within wanting. It shows that even ache can be softened, that balance can be found even in the tender weight of absence. Art too teaches this balance. A painting may stir wanting, the desire to see more, to know the story behind the image. But it also brings peace, the quiet of colors, the stillness of form. A song may light dopamine with its rhythm, pulling you forward, but it also settles you in the harmony, the resolution of chords, the calm of beauty. Artists often live within this dance, carried by the push to create and the pause to savor. Their work becomes a mirror of balance itself, a reminder that both currents belong. The balance between wanting and peace is not static. It shifts with seasons of life. In youth, wanting may dominate, driving discovery and change. In maturity, peace may grow stronger, bringing steadiness and depth, yet both remain. A child sitting quietly under a tree can feel peace as deeply as an elder dreaming of the future can feel wanting. The chemistry flows differently, but always together. Balance is not about equal amounts, but about harmony, about letting each voice speak when it is time. Think of the natural world. Rivers rush with wanting, carrying life forward. Meadows rest with peace, holding space for stillness. Storms drive with energy, but skies clear into calm. The earth itself is balanced in cycles, day and night, growth and dormancy, movement and quiet. To live in tune with this is to find health and meaning. When your days rush like rivers, remember the meadows. When your life feels too still, remember the rivers. The balance between wanting and peace is written into the planet and into you. At night, as you prepare for sleep, the lanterns of wanting dim. Peace takes the lead, guiding you into rest. The chemistry shifts, dopamine quiets, serotonin steadies, oxytocin and endorphins soothe. This is not weakness but wisdom. The body knows it cannot seek endlessly. Peace is the companion that restores, that repairs, that readies you for tomorrow's wanting. To honor sleep is to honor the balance, to trust the rhythm that has carried every creature through countless nights. And so we see that the balance between wanting and peace is not an idea to chase, but a reality to notice. It is already within you, already around you. In every breath you take, inhale wanting, exhale peace. In every day you live, morning striving, evening rest. The lanterns guide you forward, but the still waters remind you to stay. Both belong, both are sacred. To honor them is to walk gently, to live wisely, to feel the full rhythm of being alive. The dance between wanting and peace is one you will carry through every chapter of life. It is not a balance to achieve once and hold forever, but a rhythm that shifts, bends, and returns like breath itself. Wanting leans you forward into possibility, urging you toward growth and discovery. Peace holds you steady, teaching you to rest in the present, to savor, to belong. Together they form a cycle that is older than memory, older than humanity, older even than life itself. For the tides of oceans and the turning of seasons echo the same truth. Imagine sitting by a campfire at night. The flames rise and flicker, eager and restless, each spark a symbol of wanting, always reaching upward, always moving. Yet around the fire lies darkness and quiet. The stillness of the night sky, the steady hum of crickets, the cool earth beneath you, these are peace. You are warmed by one, calmed by the other. Without flame, the night would feel empty. Without stillness, the fire would lose its meaning. This is balance. The lantern of dopamine glows in the chase of sparks, while the chemistry of calm, serotonin, oxytocin, endorphins rests in the quiet. Together, they shape the fullness of the moment. In love, this balance is a lesson repeated daily. At first, wanting ignites the rush to be close, to touch, to know. But over time, peace joins, the comfort of silence, the trust of presence, the ease of simply being together. A lasting bond carries both currents. Too much wanting and love becomes restless, always chasing. Too much peace and love becomes stagnant, losing its glow. But when the two dance, love becomes both a fire and a shelter, both an adventure and a home. Dopamine fuels the sparks, oxytocin and serotonin weave the hearth. Work 2 reflects this rhythm. You set goals, pursue them, feel the glow of accomplishment. This is wanting. Dopamine rewards each small step, each achievement, but meaning comes not only from the chase. Peace allows you to pause, to reflect on what the work means, to feel satisfaction, to rest. Without peace, achievement becomes hollow, the chase endless. Without wanting, peace can slip into idleness. Without growth, balance makes work not only productive but fulfilling, not only a duty but a joy. The body understands this truth without needing words. When you move, when you strive, chemistry shifts toward wanting, fueling energy. When you rest, when you breathe deeply, chemistry shifts toward peace, restoring balance. Sleep is the clearest example. The lanterns of wanting dim, the body heals, the mind renews. In the morning, the spark rises again. To live well is not to cling to one side, but to honor both, to trust the wisdom written into your cells. Inhale, exhale, effort, rest, wanting, peace. The body knows. Consider how art embodies this balance. A poem may be born from wanting, the desire to express, to capture what feels ineffable. But the reading of a poem brings peace, a slowing of the heart, a settling of the mind. Music drives forward with rhythm, stirs dopamine with anticipation, but also resolves into harmony, bringing rest. A painting pulls you in with curiosity, but then holds you in stillness, offering quiet. Art exists because of wanting, but art endures because of peace. The two currents together create beauty that lingers. Nature mirrors the same lesson. Rivers rush with wanting, carving valleys, carrying life. Lakes rest with peace, reflecting skies, holding stillness. Forests grow with urgency in spring, then slow with patience in winter. The earth breathes this rhythm, and you are part of it. To live out of balance with it is to feel restless or stagnant. To align with it is to feel whole. When you lean too far into wanting, nature calls you to stillness. When you sink too deep into stillness, nature stirs you with change. The balance is already around you. You need only notice it. Spiritually, the balance is found in practices that honor both longing and surrender. Prayer, meditation, song each begins with wanting, the yearning for connection, meaning, transcendence. But each also ends in peace, the quiet acceptance of being, the settling into presence. The pathways of the brain reflect this, dopamine sparking at the act of reaching, serotonin and oxytocin rising in the calm of surrender. Faith in many forms is the balance made sacred, the reaching toward what lies beyond, the resting in what is already here. Sometimes imbalance is unavoidable. There are seasons when wanting dominates, when you chase relentlessly, pulled by ambition, by hunger, by need. There are seasons when peace dominates, when you pause, recover, rebuild. Neither is wrong. Life is not about perfect balance in every moment, but about trust in the rhythm across time. When you burn brightly, let yourself burn. When you rest deeply, let yourself rest. The dance will return to balance, as it always has, as it always will. The chemistry of this rhythm is gentle. Dopamine does not demand endlessly. It quiets when goals are reached. Serotonin does not silence wanting. It steadies it, softens it. Oxytocin and endorphins join to weave comfort, to ease edges, to remind you that connection and calm are rewards as much as any chase. Together, they create the science of balance, which feels in the living like poetry. It is not a rigid formula, but a flowing current, moving, pausing, moving again. At the close of a day, you can feel this truth. The morning was for wanting, for striving, for reaching. The evening is for peace, for reflection, for gratitude. The lantern dims, the water's still. You lie down, letting go of the chase, surrendering to rest. Tomorrow, wanting will return and peace will follow again. The cycle does not fail. It is the rhythm of being alive, the heartbeat of existence, the song written into every creature, every season, every breath. So let us close gently here. Wanting and peace are not enemies but partners, not opposites but companions. One moves you forward, one holds you steady. One shows you what could be, one reminds you of what already is. Together, they weave the fullness of your days, the scent. Ori of your life, to honor them both is to live with balance, with rhythm, with grace. To trust them is to trust life itself. And when the lantern of wanting dims, when the still waters of peace rise, you may rest knowing that both will return, each in their time, each in their turn, each carrying you softly onward.